Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another 10-minute eye test with your friends at Arcanum Ventures. I'm Sasha. I'm here with my good friend and colleague Carmelo, and today we are looking at Grass Network. Grass is a network of millions of people who are earning rewards for sharing unused internet bandwidth with the Grass Network and with customers of the Grass Network. Carmelo, how are you? And how does that sound to you?
I'm doing well, and I'm actually kind of excited because we're seeing like a higher caliber of projects launching now that the markets are looking up, and I think Bitcoin is approaching all-time high once again. So let's see. I think investor interest is coming back, and we're starting to see more launches. We have more to choose from because it was a little bit of a dry spell, so it was getting hard to choose projects every week. So excited to see what Grass is. It sounds intriguing. I didn't even know this was a thing. Like sharing unused internet bandwidth. It sounds maybe risky, but I also don't know anything about it. So let's find out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense when you're kind of, sharing GPU or CPU that we've seen on some edge computing networks. But internet bandwidth sounds like there's all of a sudden some security vulnerabilities. I do know that, well, there was one tweet I saw yesterday around Grass Network. I think there were a number of people criticizing the launch for some reason or another. Hopefully, we'll find out. But one individual mentioned, wow, Grass Network got million people to download spyware, and and then they launched at an $800 million fully diluted valuation with only $40,000 worth of Solana in the LP. So that's already not a good look. But we'll need to verify that. We're not going to do that in this video. It's just there is some controversy around this, and hopefully we find out. They are launching a token, and our goal remains the same for anyone that's new to this. We take 10 short minutes to dive into a startup that's launching a digital asset and understand if that digital asset is something that we would consider investing in. So make sure you stick around till the end, because that's when we're going to bring out our verdicts. But yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting one, right? What else do you know about Grass Network?
Not a whole lot. I think they did a huge airdrop campaign, and presumably that was for people that downloaded this quote unquote spyware. I don't know if it's actually spyware, but people that are downloading this maybe to monitor their unused internet bandwidth.
What the LLM is capable of doing, if it's hooked up to Grass, is to go and access that information directly from the internet. Add it to the prompt. And from the user's perspective, like, they're not really seeing that happen. This is all happening in about 500 milliseconds. But you send a prompt to the LLM. All this context, so like let's say 10 or 100 news websites get added to this prompt with a huge context window. And then the LLM can go and
I don't know what the demand is for this, so that's one thing I'm curious about, and one thing I'm going to be looking for in the next, whenever we start the clock on that 10 minutes, who is buying this unused internet bandwidth? And you're right, like, how secure is this? Is it safe? I know that we've worked with some internet companies before that do some things concerning telecoms or internet, and there are obviously worries or concerns that maybe there could be spyware on nodes and deep in projects. But even if it's a completely okay and there's nothing like that going on, it's understandable that people are a little bit worried or concerned that there might be some vulnerabilities in their network if they're inviting these devices into their home that they haven't vetted or aren't offered by major companies. So it's one thing that I'm curious to see how that develops or unfolds in the crypto space, in the deep in space, especially with nodes. When you're downloading an app, when you're downloading any sort of hardware, or not downloading, but bringing any hardware into your home or your office. So I'm curious to see how they do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing that's going to be interesting in diving into this, we're going to start the clock very soon. But, we don't talk about this enough, is when you're looking at a project like this and trying to understand if it's a good investment opportunity, trying to put yourself in the shoes of a customer, understand if this might foster some demand or if it's really needed. Is it filling some gap? I personally didn't think there was any need for decentralized internet providing. I think there are plenty of internet service providers globally that are already competing in a very competitive market. So I guess we're going to find out if this is going to have some legs. But without any further ado, I'm going to start the clock. 10 minutes starting right meow. Okay, Grass. And Carmelo, we've got crypto rank up. You can see big shiny token price right here already.
Already launched.
and we've got a fully diluted valuation of the token supply of close to 1 billion. That seems very high, with a market cap of almost a billion.
Yeah. So it looks like they've gone up from their quote unquote really high valuation. So that's at least a little bit encouraging on the first day. Looks like they have huge backers too, and they raised quite a bit of money. They got what is that? Tribe Capital, Delphi,
Tribe.
Polychain. So they got some pretty impressive cap table right here. And
Yeah, for sure.
I remember hearing about this like maybe a year ago or in the last year, and people were hyping it up, and maybe they were waiting until this moment when Bitcoin price is above 70K to launch, which is probably smart. If you have a really hype project and you put in a lot of work on the marketing side, building community and generating all this interest from huge investors, then it makes sense to be patient and wait for a good time to launch.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is always interesting looking at cap tables and how they're broken down. You can see like this pre-seed round, you have some familiar names diving into pre-seed where there's a lot of risk. And then you have some big names like for example Delphi jumping in at Series A. It gives you a bit of an idea of how these VCs invest. They want to see some traction, they want to see like a proof of concept, maybe even a later round for some of them.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's a good
go
question,
ahead.
or a point too. Like if you look, Polychain Capital invested in seed, and then they did follow up investment in Series A. So that's always encouraging too. I think that's something that nobody really talks about. But if you're willing to double dip, you're a huge VC, and you're doubling down, and you're like, we want to invest in Series A too because we like the trajectory they're on since our investment in seed. That's also kind of encouraging, and we don't often look at cap tables as like the most important thing, but that is something that is worth looking into if you're potentially investing in anything.
Yeah, man, 100%. We've done the same. And and every time we do that is because we really believe that the project's doing something good. There's this saying, if you sell a stock, if someone sells a stock, they might be selling for any number, 100 reasons, but there's only one reason someone would buy a stock.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's go check out the website. You ready?
Yep.
Boom. Okay, and here's Grass. Earn a stake in AI. I didn't know this was AI.
Well, I was gonna say like I'm curious what the demand side is for this. Like who's buying up unused internet bandwidth and what is it useful for? Because it's not like so simple as I'm buying internet from other people so I could use it and connect to the internet because you need internet to connect to the internet. So I don't think it's that simple, but maybe their primary market or demographic for people buying this is AI. And we're seeing that for, like you said, GPU and CPU compute marketplaces, edge compute. So maybe the same can be said about internet. I don't know how useful that is, but I think we saw something earlier when we were looking at this. It said uh, companies are using your own bandwidth every day to use your connection to gather insights. So I don't know how that could be stopped and how it can be rerouted to something more useful that presumably pays you out because I there's nothing's free. Like any grass type platform, they're gonna try to monetize something and give you your cut because that's what Web3 is usually about, cutting out middlemen and giving you your cut, own your own data, own your own assets, et cetera, et cetera. So curious to see, what the average person will make to loaning their bandwidth and how much does that impact the performance of their own internet. So yeah, there's a lot to learn here.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely way more than you can uncover in 10 minutes. And this is a good testament to our, for our viewers that are trying to understand, like, how do we do DD? You have to understand the finances behind something like this. How much does an average person or average community member within this company pay for internet services on a monthly basis? And what's the threshold financial return that they're willing to accept in order to install some sort of node and then run it and operate it and make some money back? Because if this company cannot sell decentralized provisioning of internet resources, for enough money and then give some monetary reward to those users, it all falls apart, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, and they're a marketplace, so I'm also curious to see what their cut is when they connect buyers and sellers of this internet bandwidth. for lack of a better term. What is their cut, and how are they
Yeah, absolutely.
monetizing it, and how is that value accruing back in the token, right?
Absolutely. And we have yet to see that. We don't see anything about the token actually. But we do see that there's protected personal data. They would have to say something like that because this can be very sensitive and it can be something
Hmm.
very concerning for people that are lending their home internet to other companies. If
Or an
not,
office
this is a
office
great way
internet.
for yeah, yeah. If not, this is a great way for like large companies to collect consumer data in some very like covert way from consumers in a specific area.
Yeah, and data is like a currency now. So data's at the core of most of these new AI plays, at least, because you need data sets to train AI models. So maybe that's the end game for them. They're training their own AI model, but I don't believe that's the
Hmm.
case.
You know, interesting thing. Whenever I see these like testimonials or reviews on a website with a project that's just launched an asset, I wonder like, have they been around for a while? Did they run this without launching an asset? And if so, like, what were these people being paid in? Because I assume the token is the rewards currency. And that's the only thing that really makes sense to me outside of governance. But I don't think they would incorporate governance for any reason. But are these people just like selling their internet for no reason?
It said that they're earning grass points, so this has probably been running for a while before the token launch, and
Hmm.
that's interesting because they're doing an airdrop. I would assume that these grass points can be converted into the grass token, if that's what it's called. But I'm wondering if there's any other ways you could redeem these grass points, because you and I have toyed around and built some of these systems before for clients on how to run an airdrop campaign in a very equitable way that rewards everybody but doesn't reward these farmers that bring no value to the network. So they're basically rewarding people ahead of the launch of their own token with grass points. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but and I haven't heard anything about the airdrop and how it went and if people are happy with it, because you and I have seen some disastrous airdrops in the last few weeks. I think Scroll was one
Yeah.
example. So it seems like it's getting harder and harder to nail an airdrop and get it right where everybody's pretty satisfied with it.
Maybe airdrop farmers just have high expectations, and we
Yeah.
do know that the loudest people on social media are usually not the most correct. They're actually just the most obnoxious. So unfortunately, the internet rewards these people. But I do see there's a documentation link here, and what I'd like to do is take the remaining time we have to dive more into the token and see like what does it actually do, right? Because they're
Yep.
selling the token, and if the token is a like a rewards mechanism, then it doesn't make any sense to invest in it, maybe. But I do
Yeah.
see they've got nodes.
I mean, you bring a. Oh, it's not showing anything on the screen. But you bring
Oh,
up a
I
really good
apologize. Here we
point.
go.
Like, you're exactly right. If it's just a reward mechanism, then it's not very useful. But one thing to look for, and one thing we design first when we're building a token or a node economy, is how do we absorb that back in to the system? So, what can I spend these tokens on? Governance is probably a good guess. I'm sure there's governance involved. I don't know why people would be paying for close to $1 billion valuation for grass tokens, other than
Yeah.
speculation, assuming that it's going to go up in value because they're bullish on it, or it looks really cool, or they have big backers. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. They haven't really said anything about the token. You're right.
Yeah, and I see there's some language here around data encryption, traffic encryption, etc. That is absolutely necessary. I
Hmm.
want people to understand like this is maybe what we're seeing here on the screen is maybe the bare minimum of what they should be providing around information for encryption. In fact, this company, if they are using personal individuals' home networks or business networks, etc., what they would benefit from is full scale third party auditing of infrastructure to ensure that there is no data shared. Otherwise, they can make a lot of money from selling your personal data and just lying to you.
Yep.
But I don't see anything around the token,
Does
and
it
and
say
this is a bit
anything
concerning.
up there? A grass under FAQ? Maybe that's the token. Uh, right below that,
In fact,
grass.
there's no mention of the token anywhere, right? Grass. Oh, here we go. The native token. We found it. So
Okay,
power
buyback,
transactions and buybacks. Hmm. Staking
staking and
rewards.
rewards.
Oh, oh man.
We got to cheat a
That's
little bit
our
today.
short 10 minutes. Yeah, yeah, we're gonna cheat. It's a cheating type of Wednesday.
The
So,
higher the FTV, the more you can cheat a little bit on the 10-minute eye test.
yeah,
That's our new rule.
absolutely. FTV is directly proportional with cheating.
uh, okay, so network fees.
What do you think about this?
Okay, participate in the development of the Grass network, including proposing and voting on network improvements. All right, so that's like almost
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Like I think governance is it's always like that. You could dive in and you can write pages and pages or a whole governance paper, but the reality is it's going to look like that. Two or three sentences. You can help us develop the future of this network, whatever that means. And network fees, I'm curious. Is this is on Solana, right? So it's not its own network. I mean, it's not its own blockchain, at least.
No. But this is interesting. It says all stakeholders are ultimately compensated in grass, and this is something that we see often in token economies that we disagree with because we've worked on several edge computing networks, for example, and it's a misalignment of incentives slash rewards with users because the majority of people that are hopping on a grass network and providing decentralized internet bandwidth for other companies, most likely, I mean, your target audience is like everyone that has internet, and
Hmm.
a very, very small percentage of those people actually care about crypto. So you're paying people out in crypto, and you could say it's you're trying to onboard people, but let's be honest, a lot of these people don't care at all about Solana or Grass. So you're
Yep.
paying people out in tokens that for them is nothing more than magic internet money.
Yeah, in a marketplace, your job is to match demand and supply and then take a cut. It's pretty straightforward, right? So you need to
Yep.
make sure that you're paying people out proportionate to the amount you're bringing in as a company. And it's not really a company. I can see that this does need governance and they are committed to decentralization because they have a foundation at least from the get-go. So I think that it could be necessary to have a governance token that's pretty robust. But I don't know what sort of decisions they'll be making, maybe revenue splits and what goes to the foundation or not. But uh, yeah, I don't know enough, and they didn't really explain enough about everything else. I think they gave enough information about the token itself, but we still don't know a whole lot about how this works, what the demand is. I think that's my
Mm.
biggest remaining question. Who's buying this, and is there enough demand?
Yeah, there's a lot to digest in this page, and that's really good actually. I'm glad that we cheated a little bit because of that 900 million FTV. But we can digest this for an hour. But I do want to point out a couple of things real quick. Revenues generated by the network will be converted into grass. So it sounds
Hmm.
like everything's grass. The company is completely foregoing fiat or stablecoin revenue and auto buying and converting everything into their own token, which means that they must later sell those tokens to pay marketers and developers and everything else, right? Let's
Yep.
be honest. So, that's a bit concerning. The revenue, the lack of revenue diversity here, and then we're talking about grass is used to stake. So they're really prioritizing bringing value to grass. Grass is used to stake. It sounds like collateral for people that are in the network. That's kind of
Hmm.
ironic because, like, who's keeping grass in check, right? Who's keeping them accountable with your data? But I won't touch that one too deep.
Yeah, it says slashing is currently triggered manually, but as the network undergoes development and becomes fully decentralized, slashing is expected to occur autonomously. So either by committee of token holders, maybe voted on by the community,
Mm.
or maybe there's some autonomous automated function. But I mean, that's good that they included that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to be clear on this one last point: transactional efficiency. So reasons why grass needs to operate on a blockchain. I want to be clear. This is most likely, maybe 99% likely, not to be in reference to the network. I do not think that this network of provisioning, internet bandwidth to others from people's home routers is efficient in any way. This is probably in reference to it just makes transactions like paying
The
people in
payments. Yeah.
tokens more efficient. Yeah. So I do not think that this is a good solution or an alternative to like using Comcast or some like local internet service provider. Okay. Well,
So you want to
yeah,
go
where do we
first? The
begin?
verdict. I'll let you go first, but I just wanted to remind everybody we are super close to 1,000 subscribers finally on YouTube. So if you want to like and subscribe and leave your comments, maybe you love grass and you think we're morons, just let us know in the comments and we'll try to get to all your questions and concerns. And yeah, without further ado, Sasha, do you want to give your final verdict for grass?
Yeah, sure. And I do want to be clear. I don't think we've been like overly critical or
No, no.
negative about grass. I think we've been very fair. And I do want to bring everyone back down to earth. We're talking about a company that launched something like they launched a digital asset 2 days ago, maybe.
Hmm.
And let's make it as clear as possible for everyone. This digital asset is worth almost $1 billion. And this digital asset is not granting ownership of the company. You're buying a reward asset. And so the reward asset's $1 billion. That's insane. So that's one thing that I wanted to mention. The second thing I wanted to mention is that I hope all of our viewers are questioning whether this business is viable, because they need to compete with internet service providers in a landscape or an industry that is already extremely competitive. It's an insider industry. If anyone knows telco or ISP, they know that a lot of deals are made in back rooms with government officials around infrastructure that's privately or government subsidized and built. And so they've got to penetrate a market where the most money comes from large B2B relationships and enterprise relationships. It's very unlikely for this company to be able to establish that. Most likely, the revenue is going to come from selling internet to like small businesses or mom and pop shops that need to save a few cents on like a gigabyte. So I don't think that this business is going to be very viable. I do think they've got an uphill battle, and I do believe that they're going to struggle with bringing on some revenue and then powering those token buybacks to bring value back to the token. So for that, I'm going to give it 1 thumbs down. I don't think I'm interested in buying the token, the rewards asset that's already $1 billion. I wish them the best of luck, but it will be interesting to see what happens as this company grows and develops. I could be very wrong.
Interesting. I'll start with my verdict. I was going to say 1 thumbs up because
Ooh.
I actually think the token makes sense. Like, we've designed some systems similar to this, and you could always make a case for, does this token need to exist? Even the ones we've built, could you sub it out with a stable coin, for example, and use that to power governance, right? You don't need an actual native token for most of the stuff that we see. You can justify it, but it's not 100% necessary. So when they say why blockchain, yeah, correct. These 3 points they raised were, not wrong, but why native token? That's a different story altogether. So I think the token makes sense, but you're right in that I still see a massive question mark here, and that is, what is the demand side? You and I don't know enough about this. We don't know what the demand is for this sort of bandwidth, what type of companies would be buying it, what it's useful for. I think that would be important to learn. So this is one of those rare ones where we would probably need like somebody more technically savvy to guide us, because like you and I, we're jacks of all trades, but we're not plugged in enough on the tech side. We don't know enough about this and how this functions behind the scenes, and we'd probably have to have a call with them to figure that out, or maybe multiple calls. So based off what I see, putting my pragmatic investor head on, seeing the markets the way they are, it's probably going to do quite well because they timed the market really well. I personally would probably wait for it to correct a little bit and plunge downwards. I think it's maybe overvalued for what it does currently. That might not be the case in the future, but this could double in FTV. So I think it's definitely interesting. It's worth looking into, which is what the thumbs up means. But would I invest in it based off what I've seen right now? No, probably not. So that's not investor advice. That's just like unfiltered thoughts. I think it's certainly more interesting than most of the stuff we've been reviewing or seeing. So it looks more like a real company than most of the stuff out there. But yeah, this just goes to show that 10 minutes is not nearly enough. Probably 10 hours would be needed to fully vet this, maybe even more.
Yeah, but I think that was a lot of fun, actually. Grass Network. Thank you, and best of luck on your token launch. Looks like you guys are doing well so far. I'm very interested to see what happens coming down the pipeline. Again, for all of our viewers, thank you. We're getting very close to that 1K follower mark. It's been a journey. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you haven't already. We got some more fun content coming out. And until next time, stay safe out there, y'all. Ciao.
Bye.